Hello and welcome back to the Obojima Podcast. My name is Jeremiah and I am joined with Ari and Adam, and we are the writers of Obojima. You're joining us for a weekly writers meeting where we sit down and we talk D&D, we talk Obojima, we talk other things, and in this week we are discussing constructs in Obojima, specifically animated, living, physical things. I don't know.
Things that would normally be inanimate.
There you go.
That are made of parts.
Yeah. Constructs in Obojima exist already. So let's talk about, how they appear in Obojima as written currently. And I believe in the first book, there's only two instances, if I remember correctly. There's the rubble golem, which I believe is a construct.
Yep.
And then and that rubble golem is animated through memories or magic, natural magic that occurs. Then there are the, animated puppets, like the marionettes that exist within the Wandering Forest, the creeping, crawling canopy, which I believe you illustrated, or not illustrated, but you wrote. It's that bar that is being fully operated by...
There's these puppets, and there's you don't know if they made the wizard upset. They were patrons that were rowdy, and the wizard just turned them into puppets, or whether they were constructed by the wizard to run the bar.
Yeah.
You also have
Rumors abound.
Companion spirits that are whelmed inanimate objects.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of take on that. So you might have a little action figure that has been whelmed and stuff, which is a construct, in that it has an inanimate object given animus.
Yeah.
But it is not. It's not the item itself was given its own intelligence.
Yep.
That is another entity that is inhabiting it. So we have different types of constructs. Now the puppets are interesting because we don't know its origin. You left that mysterious, which I love. But it exists. So it's a thing in Obojima.
DMs can create whatever canon they want, but at this point you're not sure.
There's also spells which create construct-like creatures. There's Forest Guard, which are kind of like root-bounded shrubs that, spit little seed bullets at creatures and things like that. As you do. And then in the future, this is, we'll throw the art piece up, but we had kind of talked about this being a construct that can exist for a long period of time as this jack-o'-lantern construct type creature that is potentially produced on the currently untitled but kind of titled Pumpkin Patch Island that we're figuring out. So constructs exist in a couple different forms, either via spell or naturally occurring in Obojima, which is kind of interesting that constructs naturally occur. And then also through creation. So with that in mind, let's talk about a couple different forms of constructs and how we might see them popping up in Obojima, and then get to the big question, which I'm sure everyone wants to know, which is what about robotics? Do robots exist, which, might be constructs formed without magic, I guess is what they're intending in some way. I don't know.
Right.
Could be with or without, I guess.
And then, and we'll get to robots. We'll talk constructs first. But the question I want to ask is, a construct might have an intelligence that was given to it by the magic.
Mm-hmm.
If we are going to have if I'm able to cobble together using technology alone, other than powering it, using a jolt spell, does its hardware give it intelligence like a robot?
Right.
So that's going to be a question of where does that come from? Or I imagine we could also talk about this melding of these two things, right? So,
my initial gut reaction is that the level of sentience and robotics type stuff doesn't exist in Obojima because it caps in the 80s. We are just getting to the point of computing in a small package. Computers are no longer taking up the size of a room or an office building. Right. So I don't see that ever occurring without magic personally. Whether people create quote unquote robot like constructs, I could potentially see happening where they've taken apart a car or a couple in a vending machine, and they've formed the plate metal on the vending machine really thin and built cauldrons and kind of created this little robotic arm that then they use magic or a spirit to whelm and operate in some way. Now, if a spirit were to whelm it, I think it still should only be able to function like, I guess this is a question. I don't know. Maybe it does just function. If a spirit whelmed a set of armor, would the armor move around so long as it's like tied down to itself and the joints all operate?
Full Metal Alchemist has proved this.
Full Metal Alchemist has proved
Come on.
this.
Yeah, this is proven. I mean,
Don't make me cry, buddy.
Oh, man. Yeah, let's not go there. That's very sad. Moving on, before I get all teary-eyed. Let's see. There was a toy in the 80s, and I think it was called...
Land Sharks.
Land Shark, exactly. It was called like RoboTrack or something like that, or Track something. But anyway, it was this 6-wheeled vehicle. It was about this big, and you could program it to like go forward 4 car lengths and then turn right, and then you could program it would execute the program, and you could make the program quite long, and it would go around your house or whatever and avoid furniture. But it was essentially you're programming a brain, and it was robotic in the sense that it had a motor and it would move. So maybe there's a way like in Obojima where you could actually like get your empty suit of armor, and then maybe there's a spell which is like it has like basic sort of 1980s level tech.
It's like DOS. And then
yeah. You're like, you just got a prompt and you just like, enter in this spell, and you can tell it to do almost like how you'd program like a magic mouth or something, or something like that, where I can give it 4 basic commands to do something, or maybe 2 basic commands, and then your robot goes off and does something.
Interesting. I do like the idea of installing a spell in some sort of like memory card or a floppy disk or a cartridge, and being able to insert it into a construct, and it animates very briefly and does a thing, and then turns off again.
Yeah, there was another from the 1980s. There was on the very early Apple computers. There was a game called I forget even what it was called, but it was basically basic programming. Like you would use like AND gates and OR gates and XOR gates, and you would create little microchips, and you would install these gates, and you would nest microchips inside of microchips, and you would create like this sort of complex little robot, and then you would execute it, and it would move through a maze, and you could figure it out, and you could make what they called right wall crawlers. Like if your thing you could create your robot, and it would have bumpers on that would sense. And if it sensed a wall, you could tell it to stick to that wall and then move, in one direction. And it would be like a little maze crawler, and it could do that. So you could kind of do spells that worked like that. And so that kind of is like taking fantasy, the D&D aspect and the spells in Obojima, and then smashing it together with what was possible in the 80s. Like you had some pretty complex stuff you could do in the 80s, even though it was like, the Stone Age compared to now. My
question is, do you think Obojimans understand technology to that capacity?
No, but they understand magic.
So
and to steal, what is it, C.S. Lewis quote, like, things that seem to be magic are actually science taken to the nth degree. That's my terrible paraphrasing of that. But that was the gist. Like, if you understand magic, you kind of in a weird whip around way understand technology.
Got it. So let's say for these constructs, let's say it's like I'm imagining like a little tiny robot, like a really simple one that's like the size of like a little boy or something like that. And then on its back is essentially like the hard drive reader or like a floppy disk reader for like 6 MacBooks, or not MacBooks, but like, old Mac computers. And are those just like, if you were to crack it open, it'd be like the body of the character, and then the wires are just like wrapped around like like metal nodes and stuff like that inside. Like it looks like just a rat's nest full of wires that the wizard is just connected to all these different parts, not fully understanding how it works, but just like letting the magic flow through into it.
Yeah.
Oh, when we talk about robots, are you talking about like humanoid in shape? Is that kind of what we're talking about? Because I'm trying to figure out the difference between an item that has been given magical abilities versus a robot. You know, are we talking about robot that walks around, or like what do we mean by construct or robot in this?
So when I think of a robot, I'm thinking of Vargai, our talented artist who's worked on a lot on Obojima. I'm thinking of some of his past work, like stuff that exists for him that he illustrated that we chose to not utilize because we didn't necessarily want these types of constructs. Pardon me.
Salute.
Okay, but I've got some. I'm pulling some up. We'll throw some on screen so everyone can see what we're talking about. This something like this.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. It's like Iron Giant kind of stuff.
This, you know, for anyone listening, you know, just like really imagine the most simple tin can tube pill looking robot.
Clamp hands.
With little clamp hands.
Clampers.
Or, you know, here's another good example. This one is a little more futuristic, but, you know.
Yeah.
It's way more. That is like, to me, that's a different.
Yeah.
That's a different vibe. Yeah.
But it's not so far off from 80s technology.
No.
Like I have a cassette player that does the peaking for when my, you know, music's playing. Like, oh, you should adjust your dials. I never do because your music's peaking right now on your speakers. Rock. And that, you know, doesn't look too dissimilar from what we're seeing on here. Let's see if I've got another one. I've got one that looks more in line with like knights in suits of armor, which would be these guys here.
Yeah.
I like those.
That's cool.
So I'm hoping these are popping on screen so we can explain. Everyone gets a vibe for what we're going for.
Even think of like the day the earth stood still. Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
Right. So I'm thinking of something akin to this. Again, if anyone's familiar with the Dara, imagine a red Dara, but they're made out of metal. You know, like a little thing with a round head, like something simple like that. So when I'm thinking of a robot with like this computer on the back of it, I'm wondering what they're able to do. Is it too complicated for us to be like, oh, wizards are creating these or mechanics are creating these? And it's just maybe too much. Maybe, and if they did exist, they'd be incredibly simple. Or is it more of like an art thing where like it's hollow? Like if you were to go inside one of these, it would be, there's no mechanics in here. Like it's the shell that are being formed to look like people. And in reality, they're being animated from spirits and other things like that that are creating these constructs. I could see that. I could also see a purpose for it. Because if a spirit wants a body that is more, you know, like you think of a companion spirit that is an awakened object, and they're sitting inside a Game Boy, and they're using the little Game Boy speaker to talk, and they have like the animated face on the screen. They have no arms or legs. They need someone who has the capabilities to help them out. So those, you know, minor spirits are utilizing those small, simple objects, but a major spirit that is in the same situation where they maybe they're not corporeal, they're insubstantial, so they're unable to grasp things. They want a body to utilize, and maybe they would hire a mechanic to craft something like this. I could see that being a purpose for them.
I mean, when I've thought about like, Obojimans that are encountering first stage tech, and they look inside and they're like, what the heck is all that stuff? Like, what are those circuit boards, or what is that cathode ray tube? Or they don't understand it, like, but they understand magic, and they're like, well, all I know is if I, a spirit whelms it, it just happens. It sweet magic happens. Or if I cast Jolt, it fires it up and it does the thing. I like that maybe there's Obojiman artisans that are kind of artificers in the sense that they're, like an Obojima metalsmith could be like, make a facsimile of a robot and it wouldn't do anything, and you could cast magic on it and it would just be like there. But there might be an Obojima artificer, although we're not allowed to use it for D&D rule stuff, but like there is some arcane metalsmith that can create something that then can be magically animated. Like they just kind of have tapped into some sort of intuition of the cosmos, and they're like, I know if I put these cool runes in here, or if I connect this with a copper wire, or if I do some kind of mystical stuff, this thing will actually be able to be animated with magic. And then maybe there's some spells that have been developed over the centuries, or however long, where a wizard who's a prodigy is like, I know how to make that move. And maybe that wizard prodigy and that metalsmith are one and the same person, that they're just kind of like, they're creating these automatons that can go out, and then other wizards can come and use magic or floppy disks or whatever kind of cool thing we want to do, that to create small programs for these robots that can then go out and do stuff like, I don't know, like haul hay, or like feed your cow.
It's hard. I don't know what the right answer with this. I think I'm leaning away from the mechanical like being able to mechanically craft these, because that feels too complex.
It's kind of out of the vibe of Obojima.
And I think maybe also leaning away from, although I like putting spells onto, like we already have the trope of putting a spell into a storage device. We've already talked about that. So we're not necessarily losing that fun idea. We're just not utilizing it in this way. But I do like the idea that bodies can potentially be crafted for spirits or other creatures that don't have appendages. I think that's interesting. Another one, which I showed both of you last night, would have been the fish bubble wizard type situation, which Ari immediately made an amazing, like already like within a second, Ari came up with an awesome idea, which is like, what if this is an awakened fish, and the art will be on the screen, awakened fish, and they're in a giant, fish bowl that's attached to a construct body, and they are part of a coven, and it's cool, so interesting, but only possible if we make that construct body a thing that is done in Obojima, which is why it didn't go in the book. We have had this art since the original book came out, but we never put it in because I didn't know if it really existed within the space. I loved it. I love the piece, but I don't know where it should go, if it should go at all.
There's something about that image, the fishbowl image, the construct form, if I'm remembering it correctly. There's something about it that felt crafted by a craftsperson.
Yeah.
Whereas the robots images that you showed me feel like these came off the line of a factory. And maybe that's true if we're saying the first stage manufactured robots.
Sure.
Right? That's where that's where it started to kind of bleed into sci-fi for me.
Yeah.
Where those felt like mass-produced robots, but that other one, the fishbowl one, felt like somebody crafted like that body.
I think that's a really important distinction. It's like saying, I
need to make sure.
Well, unfortunately in the art, you don't actually get to see much of any of the body. So you only get to see the small portion of the hand, which is why it might feel, different than the others. Because the other ones, you really get to see their bodies.
Yeah, I might have been kind of projecting onto that one.
Yeah. It's hard to say.
But the difference between something that's mass produced, that would have been like back in the 80s, and that's its first stage tech, or you had that metalsmith look at a picture of like R2D2 or C3PO, and they're like, that's interesting. I wonder if I built that. And they built that in an Obojiman style, but then through magic, and it got animated.
So they're basically metal golems. This is what they are. They're not robots in that.
No, they're not like beep boop,
So I would say maybe a way to think about this is let's take our very, and we don't have a lot, but our limited inspiration from other bits of media like Castle in the Sky, where we have giant, essentially robot constructs. Now, those feel medieval and fantasy based, and that's obviously because they're covered in moss and they are made partially of stone.
It's the materials to me. Like, I don't know if that's like ceramic or if it's, or they hewn from stone. Like, that is very much a materials thing to me. Now, then again, they have these flashing lights, that's where you first see them wake up. And then they have lasers.
They have lasers and they're airdropped from a ship.
But if you just look at them, just from a visual perspective, they are less of the like retro future robot, and they feel like an ancient technology, more than I don't know. But then again, the robots you're showing are more in line with like the 1980s tech vibe.
Right. To me, it feels like you could have a robot that exists, that is influenced by the 80s, because the 80s exists within this world, but then created by a fantasy creator. So they are getting these smooth lines and all of these things because they are trying to emulate other things that they've seen. Like, they know what a Vespa looks like. Vespa has this beautiful arc and all of these curvatures, and so they are replicating that. Versus if a robot were formed in the medieval time, it might not. I mean, actually, that's not true. They were all extra back in the day. They were doing all sorts of details and craziness.
I don't know what it is, and I need to sit with it a little bit more, or maybe as we talk. I don't know why I feel like the robots, for some reason, aesthetically are.
It's not Obojima.
It's not Obojima.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of what I'm trying to get at is that if you had an Obojima artisan craft that, and so instead of calling it a robot, call it like an animated sculpture.
I think we'd definitely get rid of the robot title. I think it'd probably just be
call it robot, but like an animated construct or an animated sculpture.
Yeah, I mean, it would probably be something like we'd probably call it like a vessel, like a spirit vessel or something like that. Like, it would have to be it would have some title in the world of Obojima, I would imagine. One of the art pieces I'm looking for, and I might not have it on my phone. Oh, here we go. And I wanted to bring this up because this art piece is very reminiscent from Vargai's art, of Vargai's robot art, but is made for the world. Yeah. So it has the same riveting, it has the same kind of like shapes that you would get from these other ones.
Yep.
But this works for me. I think this works very well. It's in the book.
Like, imagine if you had something like that and it's whelmed by a spirit and its head is made up of, I'm picturing almost like a sphere that has a bunch of different faces, each with a different emote. And it kind of rotates it to the correct,
like a Rubik's cube.
Yeah, but it rotates to which kind of emote it's doing. So when it's angry or happy or whatnot. I think that'd be kind of visually fun to see.
Yeah.
But then again, it's a vessel, right? That's the idea.
Yeah.
I mean, once if you had an old like sort of one of the like the original Mac computers or like an Apple IIc or an Apple IIgs, one of those like green screen monitors on top of like, I don't know, a cauldron, an Obojima cauldron, and somebody just stuck that, and then there's like 4 feet and it just kind of moves along, and then the screen just shows its face. That would feel Obojima, but it's also a construct.
What about a like a Prince Robot the Fourth type situation from Saga, which if anyone hasn't read Saga, go do it. It's absolutely amazing. But that doesn't feel so disassociated from Obojima, which if anyone doesn't know what I'm talking about, it is a robot, it looks like a man, like a person from the neck down, and then the top of their head is a CRTV.
And I think like even in the one Vargai piece you showed us, it's like, you got the fishbowl, but most of the robot body, we don't even know. It's covered with a cloak or a suit or some kind of thing, and then maybe you just have a robot hand.
Yeah, I think the fact that it is clothed makes it feel for some reason more like part of the world,
Yeah.
which is an odd thing. Again, yeah, I'm not sure.
Smoke and
That's
mirrors.
interesting. Yeah, something about that's very interesting.
Yeah. So I think you can kind of get around the sort of, I don't know, the anachronistic dissonance or whatever it is, where you can just cover it in Obojima garb, but you can just have a little robot bit showing through here or a little construct bit showing through there, and it's like, oh, or they've got like a mask that's a metal mask that looks kind of robotic, and then they've just got a regular suit on, and maybe they've got a metal hand, and you're like, oh, that feels weird. Like,
this one is interesting. This is a little combination. Maybe we'll see what you think of this.
Yeah.
We're perusing, for anyone who's in the podcast only version. We're perusing Vargai's art. I recommend you go onto Vargai's Instagram and you'll find all of these pieces if you don't see it. But this is like a little tiny machine, but it's wearing a mask and it's got a witch's hat, and it's like it just looks like a bucket with legs essentially.
Yeah. And then if like those arms weren't like little metal links, but it was like maybe they were actually cloth sleeves, but they were striped to look like that, then it kind of does that thing where it's kind of part metal bucket. You're not sure, like, is it a person wearing it? Is it?
Yeah.
There's something about that. I think then that gets more to like.
And I like that the hands have fingers. There's something that a craftsperson created it like that, as opposed like the clamps feels very sci-fi to me.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's
like Bender.
Yeah. Or what's the guy? Clamps. Once I should give him the clamps, boss.
Give him the old clamps.
The clamps.
So this is interesting. To move on from topics, just going through Vargai's art, I just found this, which I think is quite interesting as well. Which looks to be like old knight's armor.
It's like
that is
animated by a plant.
Yeah, that is full of plant animation.
That's amazing.
That's great. Yeah.
Yes.
And so one of the conversations
cool.
I want to have in this topic of constructs is the plant side of constructs, to flip to the other end. A long time ago, we had a very interesting idea, which I don't know if you guys remember this, but it was, and we didn't add them into the book, so it never came to fruition. But the idea that a Dara stamp placed on a tree or some sort of plant would then animate itself if unused for a really long time and turn into like a twig blight or an awakened something in some way. Like, this is how the animate, like, this is one of the ways trees and plant life can animate within the space. Now, obviously trees and plant life already animate, but we're not necessarily calling those constructs. If you see a living spud, we're not like, that's a construct.
Yeah.
I think a construct is probably something that is, well, I guess our rubble golems constructs then.
I don't know.
I think we call them constructs, but I wonder if that is accurate to how we imagine what a construct is. Is a construct crafted? Is that what we're calling a construct? Or is a construct just a thing that has been...
an assemblage of stuff that is animated?
Because why would a rubble golem be a construct if a living spud isn't? Both of them are kind of naturally formed.
Like non-living matter that is given life, right? Like
that is given animus.
Yeah.
Yeah. A pile of stones all of a sudden assembles together. Whereas a living spud is alive.
It's like a little thing that's running around now.
Yeah.
So do you think it comes through like intelligence in some way? So like, let's say,
living spud is kind of a dum-dum, isn't it?
I thought it was brilliant.
It's brilliant. Yes,
but let's just say like a rock came to life, and the rock was like a little guy, and it ran around, and it was just as cute as a living spud, but had an intelligence of 10, and it could speak to you. Is it a construct at that point, or is it a living creature?
It's probably a spirit, right?
But I'm saying it's not a spirit. I'm saying it's a thing that has come to life. We talk about how Obojima can awaken like flora mostly, but what happens if something that is more physical were to be
in D&D? It'd be an elemental.
It'd be an elemental, right? And we say elementals exist in our space.
And we call them spirits.
Yeah. No, that's not true. We have full elementals.
Do we?
Yeah.
Huh.
We have elementals. So we have elemental spirits, but we also have standard elementals as well.
We just don't have primal planes of fire or something, like primordials and all that.
I think the way we described elementals versus spirits is elemental spirits, like let's say a spirit that was engulfed in flames, if it came from the spirit realm of the spirit, if it naturally occurs within the real world, then it is a elemental.
Right.
That's how we separated them.
Yeah, I mean, if a rock is animated by the power or magic of Obojima,
then it's probably an elemental.
yeah.
Interesting.
Yep.
So a rubble golem is a construct,
It's a memory, almost a memory construct.
interesting.
The magic of
Or
memories on
something
Obojima.
pulled it together.
Yeah, pulled it together.
Is it made of different parts? Is it constructed? You know?
Yeah. Interesting. So
Yeah.
when we think of these like daraglyph plant life things like blights and things like that, are those constructs as well, or are those something else?
It almost feels like they're awakening. They're like it's almost like an awakened tree spell, you know, like.
So when we think a construct, we're thinking of like a inanimate object that isn't like flora or fauna or anything like that is being brought to life through magic.
I think so.
So that would be
I have to look at all the corner cases where this is this is violated.
A good
but I think
example of
that's
this
correct.
would be the new creature that we had just started working on for the upcoming book, which would be the graffiti golem, which is the idea that this image of graffiti has been brought to life and now animated. That is a construct that we are saying. Right? It is an inanimate object that has been awakened or given life in some way. That is not like a flora or fauna. Got it. There's a lot of technicalities within the world.
Who knew that this was a rabbit hole of trickiness?
It gets complicated.
It's complicated, you see?
Okay, so, and we're kind of coming towards the end of our episode anyways. I know already. I think what I would love and what people are probably interested in is maybe to kind of to wrap up a conclusion on some of these things. So constructs within the world of Obojima do exist. How do people see them? How does the culture view constructs in this space? I would imagine they're not disturbed by them in any way. Like they just exist. There's so many forms of spirits and people and awakened objects already that I wouldn't imagine it does anything odd. Maybe the assumption is that they're spirits already.
Well, if we're saying that a lot of them are created from magic, or a lot of them might be vessels for spirits, I think that's already playing in familiar territory for a lot of people. I also don't think that constructs are particularly common.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I think they'd be fairly uncommon as well.
And I think also most, like, as we were talking about earlier, like, probably a lot of, like, if we were to do Obojiman constructs, like robots, they're probably going to be made by artists. Like some artist up in the mountains has, mined all the ore and, just hammered these things out and just like, and because the artist loved them and like she was really, paid attention to all the details, they just kind of spontaneously came to life, or like we were saying, like they could be kind of one and the same. Like this person has just worked on magic and is like so desired to have their creations come to life that they do it. And these they're just very simple things that go and they tend flowers or they just kind of wander around. And
I think that's such an interesting. So I wasn't even considering the idea of like the dedication Obojima gifting of magic type situation, which is a craftsman creating something with such passion that Obojima might animate it in itself.
Like bring your wish to life.
It's a very, very Pinocchio. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a Pinocchio vibe.
I mean, I think another defining feature then of these constructs might be the limited, like we talked about earlier, but I don't think I've internalized it, is the limited kind of action set that it has, right?
Yeah.
It's not this autonomous entity. It might do like even those constructs from Castle in the Sky, right? Like they kind of had these protocols that they would do on the island. And I think that there'd be something really interesting about that. And if that is kind of imbuing them with certain spells or something like that, maybe, that there is something there. But I think that the ones that are whelmed by spirits might have a greater autonomy depending on the spirit that animates them. So there's something there, but I think the idea that they are that they're animated by magic. These are things that would not normally, have the ability to move about. That they're probably built by multiple things and non-living things, and then you can create that and then they can be created that way. So I think there's something there, but I do like the idea that they're not common. That most spirits don't walk around as robots, essentially.
And I think also your point is like they don't feel mass produced.
Yeah,
they're not from the first stage.
Yep.
Like, unless it's like you have a first stage like a TV on a.
Right, like I could imagine, like if you wanted to build one, like they're building it, like and riveting it together, or like hammering it together, and I could imagine some, metal from the fuselage of an old, 1980s airplane is used, and you have markings from the airplane or whatever on that. Like, okay, if it's kind of pounded together and stuff like that, maybe that works. I'd have to see it, but.
Yeah, that is really cool though.
You got like a propeller from a Cessna.
Yeah,
and
or nose art and stuff. Like there could be something cool there.
It's made out of a old aluminum piece of luggage that has all the stickers from all the places it's traveled.
I think there's fun things that you can do, but the idea that somebody on Obojima built that frame, essentially built that chassis, I think is cool.
And then whether they, was animated by Obojima magic or if it was whelmed by a spirit, then, this thing can get up and move around or it can wheel about,
Yeah.
But it feels Obojima. It feels cobbled,
I dig it.
And clothed robots.
Clothed
naked robots.
Yeah.
You clothe your robots.
Yes. Put clothes on that, please.
All right. Well, with that, I think we're going to come to a conclusion, a close here. Thank you so much. Let us know in the comments if, 1, there should be robots in Obojima. 2, what you think they should be used for. And 3, what they should look like. What should an Obojima metallic robotic construction look like? Is it like Ari says, where it's kind of cobbled through little bits of random things? Is it more medieval in time, almost looking like, knights of suits of armor and things like that? Or
yes, I want that.
Does it shoot lasers?
what do you think?
Does it have a plasma sword? No.
Let us know in the comments below. Give us a like and subscribe. Go ahead and follow us on all the other social medias. You can catch us on D&D Beyond at our website if you want to buy a
Kickstarter.
Potentially a Kickstarter. Who's to say?
Yeah.
And we will catch you all next time. Bye.